Good morning and happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for making the time to watch this week's replay. I'm so excited to talk about this. As I was getting my notes together, there's so many things that we can talk about. I'm going to try and keep it pretty succinct for you. But today we are talking about how marketing is a lot like gardening. And are you planting enough seeds in your business? For those of you who don't know me or don't know me well, my name is Carrie Price. I'm a brand messaging coach helping ambitious service-based business owners find and own the words to stand out, be heard, and make your message roar. Hey, Fran, so good to see you. I know it's been a while. You've been so busy. Great to have you here joining me live. So yeah, today I'm really inspired to talk about how marketing is like gardening. And we actually spent most of this past weekend redoing our flower beds and a whole bunch of pots that we have all over our property. And it was a lot of work, I'm not going to lie. We are both very sore, but it really drove this point home for me. And so today, what I want to be talking about a little bit is we're going to expand on this analogy that marketing is like gardening. And I want to talk about what kind of seeds or plants you should be planting in your business, determining how many you need to plant in your business, how to take care of them, and how to save your garden when weeds take over or when some of your plants start to die. Sound good? I think this is going to be a lot of fun to talk about today. So if you're joining me live, please say hello in the comments so I can greet you properly. If you're watching the replay, please say hi so I can come back, and thank you for that. If you think this is a topic that people in your community or who are connected with you could benefit from, please share. So let's talk about how marketing is like gardening. And this isn't that big of a stretch. I think that some of these things will, probably seem pretty straightforward to you, but it's such a great analogy for the things that we need to do in our business. So, hey, Helen, so good to see you. Thanks for joining me live. So let's talk about gardening or planting, whether you have like a fruit and vegetable garden or you're planting flowers and plants, whether you work from seed or plants. Let's think about what gardening is like. So you've got to prepare the soil, you've got to plant your stuff, you've got to take care of it over and over, day in, day out, week after week, month after month, year after year. And there's a lot of maintenance that goes into having a garden or any sort of planting, right? Let's just use the word garden to mean I'm planting something. It doesn't have to mean, like a fruit or vegetable garden. And it takes a long time sometimes to get results from that, right? You can't expect to plant things today and have fruit tomorrow or, have flowers tomorrow, especially if you're starting from seed, right? So I'll tell you that I have 4 citrus trees that we bought 2 years ago. And I bought them knowing that on average it takes 3 years to start getting fruit from a fruit tree. That's a lot of effort. I'll tell you, I'm not sure my trees actually survived this last winter's freezes, but we put them in a portable greenhouse in the wintertime if we're going to have a freeze. They need constant watering. They need pruning. You can't have too many, when they start to flower and fruit, like you can't have too many, or the ones that are there, don't grow. My husband, bless his heart, took care of those citrus trees. He's the primary caregiver of those trees. And it's like a lot of work to get. I don't know. We got when our lemons finally started fruiting, I think we got 12 lemons the first year. Now they were huge. They were like seriously orange-sized lemons, and I got 4 cups of lemon juice out of them, right? That I could make lemonade and other things. My orange trees, when those started, they were the little small oranges. We probably got a couple dozen oranges. But the amount of hours that my husband spent and the amount of money that we put into it was a lot. And your marketing is going to be like that. And we're going to break that down in detail. But here's the thing. If you're willing to do the work and take care of that garden, it will fruit. It will grow, even if it's a year or more later. I recently had somebody reach out to me who heard me speak a year ago I was a guest expert in somebody's paid program. And she heard me a year ago and it wasn't the right time for her. But she reached out when it was the right time. And so I planted that seed a long time ago. There's a lot of things I've done between then and now, but you never know how long it's going to take for a seed to grow and produce fruit. Susan says, what a great metaphor to live with. Both the possibility of the fruit and the awareness that it takes work and time. Yes, it will fruit. Ooh, these look little today. Are those tiny today? I'll have to figure out why those are so tiny today. Normally they show up a little bit bigger on the screen. But yes, it will fruit. Not all of them will, though, and we're going to talk about that today a little bit as well. So let's talk about what kind of seeds or plants you should be planting in your business. Now, to take this analogy, and we're just going to go all in on this analogy today, okay? Imagine that every kind of fruit or every kind of plant that you could plant is a different type of marketing that you could do, right? So, it's a different technique that you could be using, whether that's social media or live videos or recorded videos or email marketing or guest speaking, or like, imagine that all those things are types of plants, right? So if you imagine those as different marketing channels or methods, I want you to think about how much effort each of those takes in terms of the reliability and the consistency, right? So some plants, for example, need lots of water, and maybe you've got to water them 2 or 3 times a week. Some plants are drought resistant, and so they don't need as much watering. They take less maintenance, but maybe they don't bear as many flowers or fruit, right? So when you're looking at the various marketing techniques, you want to think about what is the effort behind them and what will it fruit you? What will the result be? So we could take some marketing examples. So using Facebook Live, for example, that's probably something that needs more consistent interaction, right? You need to water that more frequently. It doesn't have to be every day, by the way. I go live here on my page every week, Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, right? That's my consistent, reliable way of showing up using Facebook Live. If you're using written posts, maybe that's a daily thing that you need to do, though, right? A little bit more activity. If you're writing a blog, you can determine if you want that to be once a day, once a week, once a month. Frequency is going to matter in terms of how much you harvest from that. So when you're looking at the different types of marketing that you can do, think about what the effort is that goes into really doing it well and what your potential rewards will be. Those fruit trees, for example, we've pretty much decided that it's not worth the effort, the time and the money to get those lemons and get those oranges for what I could go pick up a bag of lemons or oranges from the store, like not worth it for us. But I'm going to talk about when it might be worth it. Okay, so for some people, it might have been worth planting a fruit tree that won't blossom and bear fruit for 3 years. For us, we just determined that not so much. The other thing to be thinking about is, what kinds of things should you plant is what's the mix, right? How much variety do you have in your garden? And there's going to be pros and cons to that. There's going to be, on the one hand, you could plant all the same thing. Maybe all you plant is roses, right? And everything's on the same schedule. You know exactly how to take care of the roses, but when the roses aren't in bloom, that maybe there's nothing else there, right? So you could choose to mix what you plant in your garden and to take the most advantage of the space or the time. Think about that in the equivalent of the time that you have to invest in your garden, that you might want to diversify what you put in. And if you grow fruits like a vegetable garden, There's even techniques for within the same plot, you can plant two completely different plants in the same space because they take different nutrients out of the ground and they ripen at different times of the year. So you're maximizing the space, right? So you could get really strategic with what you plant and how you plant them so that you're taking care of that same plot of land, that little, maybe you do a square garden, right? The square gardening method. And you're getting the most out of that square garden. Hey, Sarah, so good to see you. Thank you for joining me live. So when you're thinking about what kinds of seeds or plants to put in your garden, what kinds of marketing to do in your business, think about what the work effort is and what you think you can get out of it. You probably want some that are like a longer term and some that are shorter term, right? My mom, she planted 2 weeks ago, she took a garlic bulb, right? Just fresh garlic. She didn't use it all. It was already starting to sprout. She dropped that in her garden because she likes the garlic greens that come, the shoots that come out of that. And that like is really quick blooming, right? So in a week, they were already 3 or 4 inches tall. 2 weeks later, they're almost ready to chop off the first batch of that and start the next growth. She's got other things in her garden that take a lot longer to grow. So think about how long things are going to take and how you want to, harvest that garden. Okay. So when you're determining how many things you need to plant, even if you're all one crop, even let's say you're all in on Facebook Live and that's all you do, you still need to determine how frequently you do that. I like to have diversification in my garden. We planted some shrubs. We planted some azaleas. I live in East Texas, which is known as, I think, the azalea capital of whatever. It's beautiful. Everything is blooming right now. We also planted this really cool, I don't even know the name of it, but it's like this double blooming rose bush. It reminds me of cherry blossoms, but it's not, like it's a short bush. We also planted lilies, things that'll bloom a little off schedule so that we don't have everything in the front of our house blooming at once, right? So you want to have some diversification, but we also recognize how much work it takes to do all of that. We plant 4 different kinds of herbs and plants that are supposed to deter bees and wasps. We have a big wasp problem here. 2 years ago, we did that and we did not have very many wasp nests growing. Last year, we did not do that and it was crazy. So we're back at it again. And we've planted the 4 main plants that help us deter the wasps. But we've got those, like we have 3 sets of each. We have 2 sets on our back patio and 1 set by the front door. Manageable for us, but we wanted to make sure it was going to do its job for us. So be thinking about what the goals are, so you know how many things that you need to plant. Now, I was talking earlier about like if you are planting a vegetable garden. Lost for words whenever I want to say vegetable garden. When we think about planting a vegetable garden, and what are your goals with a vegetable garden? Are you wanting to provide all the food for your family? Are you wanting just to grow a couple of your favorite things? Oh, I've got yard work happening again today. Why does everybody come on Tuesday morning? Hopefully that's not too loud. They're going to be aerating my lawn today. But are you going to try and grow all your own food or will you buy some? Even if you're planting flowers and shrubs, right? Like what are your goals for that? Do you want to be able to cut flowers and put them in your house? Do you want flowers growing all year long? Is it okay that everything comes in big batches? So let's talk about the equivalent of that to marketing and your business. You might decide, I want a rose garden and everything's going to bloom once a year and that's okay. I love it because it's like all roses, like for this concentrated period of time. That might be something like bee school. Marie Forleo only opens her bee school enrollment once per year. Now, all year long, she is taking care of her rose garden. She's putting out videos, she's putting out content, but she only it's all to harvest 1 batch of roses coming in every year, right? Or you may decide that you like to have, here's the loud noise now, move the mic closer. You might decide that you want to have flowers every month. You want new clients, new business coming in every month. So you're going to want to have a variety of things that you're working on that are going to bloom at different times, right? Some might take longer. They may only pop once or twice a month. But what can you do that's going to give you something to harvest every single month? So be thinking about that. But also realize even if you wanted like the giant garden and you've got stuff coming in every month, what can you realistically maintain? If you planted a huge garden that takes a lot of work, but you have a full-time day job and the garden you just planted requires like full-time maintenance and care, your garden's not going to thrive. It might die, in fact, right? Because you can't maintain it all by yourself, or you've got to hire someone to help you do that, which is absolutely a possibility. There's a service here that I've seen that they basically will come plant your garden, maintain your garden for you, harvest the garden, teach you how to do it. That's an equivalent of hiring in people to help you with your marketing, right? So you have to look at what you can easily maintain and take care of so that it can flourish and thrive. Francis, thanks for calling me Rose in Marie Forleo's garden. They're my favorite. Yeah, that's what she does. She has got this great big garden of roses that she cultivates and takes care of and nurtures all year long. And when all those roses pop, she's got a wonderful new flock of new roses to bring into her business, right? Okay, so when you're thinking about how many plants that you want to plant, here's another thing to consider. Do you have a green thumb or not? Are you a natural at marketing or not? I am not a green thumb in my garden. In fact, I joke that plants have a hard time surviving around me because they don't cry, meow, or bark, right? Like human kids and fur kids, they let you know when they're hungry, they're thirsty, or they need something. Gardens don't do that. They don't make a sound, so you have to pay attention in a different way, right? So maybe you need, if you're not a green thumb, if it doesn't come natural, if you don't totally love it, you might need to set a reminder for yourself, like I water the plants on Tuesdays and Fridays, or you set the automated sprinkler system, which is like auto-scheduling social media posts, for example, right? So if you're not a natural, you don't love it, you've got to put a system in place that's going to help you nurture that garden so it doesn't die. Now, if you love it and you're out there doing it every day and it comes naturally to you, you're probably going to have a different kind of garden because you're going to be able to do things that are a little bit more complex because you're willing to, do the research to figure out, will this plant grow and how do I do it? And oh no, it looks like it's not doing well and how do I adjust, right? You're more invested in it. Just like marketing. For some people, marketing is fun, whether it's what they do for a living or not. They enjoy the process of marketing. It's about putting your message out there in different ways. It's about nurturing that soil, letting that be rich, having people want to come flock to see what that's all about, right? For some people, that's fun, and they don't have to schedule time in like, oh, I need to go market. No, they're like doing it every day and they're excited about it. But if that's not you, then put some systems in place for yourself. Block out times. Okay, Tuesdays are my day that I'm going to go be social and interact and engage with people and build relationships. And Thursdays are the day I'm going to send the email to my list. And I know that those are the two main things that I'm doing every week, but I'm going to do that every week because I want to nurture that garden. It's like fertilizer and water and nutrients that you need, right? To see who's going to grow and what's going to pop. Okay. Another thing to think about, let me have a sip of tea while I'm thinking about it. A couple other things to think about when you're determining what to plant, how many things that you need to plant, is know that some things will die. Even with a green thumb, you might be experimenting with a new plant that maybe it doesn't really grow well in your zone, but you're determined you're going to stick it in a greenhouse and you're going to try. Or you plant a bunch of things and something happens. You get, we're going to talk about what happens when like weeds take over or plants start to die, but just recognize that some things might die. And so plant a little bit more because not everything's going to work. You might get a bad plant. You might, the lawnmower guy might run over your bush on accident and kill it. Like there are a lot of things that could happen. So you don't want to just like have one plant in your garden and hope that's the only thing that's going to grow and you're going to rely on that thing to feed your family or to give you roses every month, right? So plant more than you think you need. Not so that it's overwhelming, but just because some things aren't going to work, right? We've actually replanted the beds in the front of our house. This is our third complete replanting in 4.5 years. So the builders put in plants for us and we hated them. They were really high maintenance. They weren't that pretty. So 2 years ago, we hired somebody to rip everything out. And we said, we want low maintenance plants that, flower once or twice a year, but like we do not want to have to be doing a ton of pruning. It's the south facing side of our house. So in the summer, it gets like 10 hours of direct sun, like make sure it can survive that. And so when they planted everything, it looked really pretty and beautiful. And then things started dying. And so we had to replant some things, but we ripped everything out earlier this year, knowing we were replanting again. Like everything just went crazy. And so it was time to reevaluate. That might happen for you with your marketing. You might be trying a certain technique and it doesn't work, and you're going to try to fix it. Right? You're like, what can I learn from this? Okay, that plant needed more water or less water. Or that plant didn't work really well in that soil, which might mean that particular marketing technique doesn't work with the market you're trying to talk to, or, in a particular Facebook group or whatever the case might be. That plant didn't work well in that environment. So you need to adjust, right? So just know that you're going to have to be evaluating and readjusting to find the right combination of plants that work in the soil to cultivate the things that you want to grow. All right. So now you've got this garden. What are the things that you need to do to take care of them? Right? You've planted these plants either from seed or little seedlings or full plants, whatever that is that you bought. By the way, it's cheapest to buy seed and plant it and cultivate and grow it. It's more expensive to buy a mature bush, tree, or plant. So that's kind of, like when you're bootstrapping and you're getting started in your business, you're doing everything by yourself. You're starting from seed and you're trying to figure out what it takes to get it to sprout and then get it to grow. You can hire help to help you with your marketing. And that's sort of like buying a mature bush, like somebody who's like, all right, look, I already got it to this stage. Now let's continue growing it, but it sort of accelerates and that costs you more money than starting from seed, right? But maybe the time factor is important for you, that if you bring in the right help to help you with the right aspects of your message or your marketing, you can get to the mature items faster than starting from scratch. So that's something to think about. But no matter what you buy, they need to be watered regularly, whatever they need. It needs to be fertilized. You might need to replant. So if you are a container gardener, you plant in a small pot and it gets bigger and then you got to replant it into a bigger pot. So this is all that maintenance, the reliability, the consistency of taking care of each of those plants, doing all of that marketing so that you get the best results, right? Now, I want to wrap this up because I wanted to keep this short today and I'm totally beating this analogy to death, but I hope it's like making sense. Is this helping you? Is this helping give you a perspective of how to think about your marketing? How to think about what activities or plants that you want in your business, and are you doing enough of them? Do you have things that are going to give you results maybe this month, but some things that might take longer and it might be a year before somebody comes back to you? Are you doing a variety of things? I hope this is helping you sort of think about all of that. The last key thing I wanted to talk about today, though, I'm totally dehydrated today. I don't think I drank enough water yesterday. I was so bad yesterday. The last thing I want to talk about is what to do or how to save your garden when weeds take over or plants are starting to die. I'm going to have a couple, like what happened to us in our planting this weekend and over the last couple years. But the first thing is you got to keep an eye on what's happening. So when the reason we had to completely rip everything out and replant all of our beds and pots this year is because we sort of saw that things were floundering, plants were dying, we were starting to get weeds, we got tired of pulling them, we waited too long, it was too much work, and we just sort of let everything just go to pot, for lack of a better word. Okay, like we kind of gave up on everything. Not the best choice, like really, like we are not that it was like out of control and awful, but really we were like the worst yard on the block, and that drove both of us crazy. But we were like coming out of the fall and into winter when nothing's going to grow anyway. We're like, okay, we're just going to regroup in the spring. But had we pulled weeds as they first came in and got them out of the way, think of those weeds as distractions in your business. That's kind of the shiny object, but it's like all the other things that take up your time. If you nip it in the bud and you pull the weeds right away and you get those roots out, it's easier and easier to stay on top of that, right? If you don't and you let the weeds sort of take over, it's a whole lot more work to get them out of your way and get focused back on the activities that are going to be fruitful for your business, the good plants that are going to yield you good results. And now you're spending all your time on this stuff that doesn't matter, right? It doesn't give you any benefits in your garden. In fact, it's just detracting, right? It's taking the nutrients, it's zapping your energy, it's distracting you from taking care of the good plants. So keep your eye on what's happening and adjust quickly. If you've got a plant that is wilting, well, what does that need? Does it need more water or less water? Sometimes it needs less water. You might be overwatering it, right? And the leaves are browning. And so you're doing too much. You need to let stuff breathe a little bit, right? It doesn't always need to be flooded with water. One of the plants that we bought was spearmint. I love the way spearmint smells. It's one of those 4 plants that help us keep the wasps at bay. But when we bought them on a Thursday night and we planted everything on Saturday morning, and well, when we brought them home on Thursday night, we didn't water everything in its pots, which was our mistake. But we set it outside to be ready to get planted. And come Saturday morning, our spearmint plants were pathetic, like limped all over, totally wilty. The soil was dry and crumbly. I wasn't sure I could salvage it. But we got him potted in great soil and we watered him, and the next day he spruced back up. Now we could have given up on that little spearmint plant and been like, uh-oh, he's already dying, like lost cause. But instead we just gave him a little bit of extra love and attention and we sprung him back to life. And I'm willing to bet he is going to thrive and flourish. Spearmint, if you've never grown it, it's not really invasive is not the right word, but it starts with this little tiny plant and it will like bloom out and fill the pot and like drape over. It's gorgeous. It wants to grow. It really does. It wants to grow and spread. And it only needed a little bit of water. So pay attention to what's happening so that you can adjust and don't put off the things that you need to do that might choke out your garden, that might cause the garden to suffer, right? Get those weeds out. Make sure you're watering the appropriate amount. Don't overwater. So here, the analogy on the overwatering is, some people do Facebook Live every day. Now, for them, that might just be getting in the habit of getting comfortable doing Facebook Live. And maybe they're short and that's awesome. But if you did an hour-long Facebook Live every day, even if it's amazing content, first of all, that's a lot of content, right? But even if it's amazing content, you might burn out your audience. Who wants to watch an hour live every day? They've got businesses to run, right? So it's about finding the right balance, because what could be really great? Water is really great and necessary for your plants. Too much of a good thing, though, could kill them, right? Susan, thank you. Susan says, it's really reinforced for me patience and the importance of consistency and patience. Yes, you're so welcome, Susan. She also says, I love this idea of not giving up and know that things can come back to life. Yes, so good. Hey, Lillian, so good to see you. Thank you for joining me. I'm just about to wrap up so you can catch the replay. But yeah, Susan, it's so important that we get strategic about what we want to plant. if you don't know what you're throwing out there, like the proverbial, shotgun approach, I'm just going to see what sticks. That's the equivalent of like, I'm just going to throw a bunch of stuff in the garden and see what grows. And maybe I'm mixing stuff. I got a whole bunch of seeds, but some of them needed a lot of water and some of them needed a little water and some of them needed a lot of sun and some of them needed shade. But I just threw a bunch of stuff out there and didn't pay attention. And I want to see what grows. That's not going to work either, right? We want to be smart and strategic. So everything that we're planting in our business, every opportunity that we have to go out there and plant a seed or plant a plant is guiding us to the goals that we want for that garden. What is it you want out of your business? And how is it that all the activities that you're doing in your marketing are going to get you there? Lily and I absolutely talked about that earlier. Yes, not all plants make it. I talked about that. It's so true. Nurturing does matter. Absolutely. So here's what I would love for you guys to do now. And I'm so glad that this analogy helped. If you think this analogy would help others as well, please share this video so that they can benefit from it. But I'd like to continue chatting about this inside my free Facebook group, The Messaging Den. And I've got a post that went live just a few minutes ago. I had that scheduled to go live while we were here talking together. I want you to share with me what seeds you're planting in your business. What is it that you are doing? What marketing activities do you focus on? What are the goals? What is it you're trying to harvest in your business? And what are you doing to take care of your marketing garden reliably? Remember, that's part of what helps you make your message roar, is you want your message to be relatable, one of a kind, actionable, and reliable. And if having a garden teaches you nothing else, like Susan said, it's about consistency and patience. It's about doing it every day, week, month, whatever that plant needs, doing it in a way that you know it's going to harvest for you over time. It's not going to get you necessarily the flowers or the fruit or the vegetable today. It might take a week. It might take a month. It might be like my fruit trees and take years before you get fruit. But you need to decide what is it you're trying to get out of it and if it's worth it for all the effort that you're going to put into it. So pop on over into the Messaging Den. If you're not already a member, you can search for that right here on Facebook or go to themessagingden.com and search for the post with the hashtag seeds and share with me what seeds you're planting, what is it you want to harvest, and what you're doing to nurture that garden. Before I wrap up for today, I wanted to let you know that yesterday I opened enrollment for my next free live masterclass coming up on April 16th. So if you're marketing, as you're putting that out there, the thing that's going to fortify that's going to give you extra great soil and extra nutrients and fertilizer is a strong message. That's going to help those plants grow. I like to think of this as building the rock solid foundation in your business. It's like making sure you've got rock solid soil to grow from, right? So in that free masterclass, I will be sharing with you the 7 foundational elements that you need to make your message roar, how each of them gives you a competitive advantage in the market, and what you can start doing right away to develop those for yourself. If you'd like to grab a spot in this free live masterclass, you can just go to carrieprice.com/foundation and grab a seat. If you have any other questions, drop those in the comments and let me know. I will be back here next week, same time every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern for your next free messaging mini class. And until then, have a wonderful week. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.